The Houston Texans have a YAC problem. How can they solve it for the 2026 season? And also, Stroud said it was tough unlearning being Superman. Let's revisit those comments.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily podcast on the Houston Texans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Got a Red Nation from H-Town to your town. Today's episode and every episode of the Locked On Texans podcast is for Texan fans all around. Fun show lined up for you on this Saturday. As I'm going to get my ear to the streets, which I've been talking about. That's how we're going to end off today's show. Been some very interesting comments this week, whether it's been on draft prospects or just some of the things that's been talked about here on the Locked On Texans podcast. But CJ Stroud mentioned at the end of the year, it was kind of tough for him unlearning having to be Superman. And so what does not being Superman look like for CJ Stroud? And ultimately, in the end, does not being Superman, like can Clark Kent still got the girl? So for Houston, CJ Stroud, can he be Clark Kent and get the girl? And the girl in this case is the Super Bowler. All right, we're going to talk about that in the second segment. But I'm opening up today's show I thought it was a fun conversation. The YAC problem that needs to be solved here in Houston. Houston struggled with the YAC, yards after catch in 2025. That's something that, based on some of the passing concepts that I think we saw run this year, the quote-unquote Patriot background, they asked guys to get the ball in open field and get upfield, right? That was an issue for Houston. How can they proceed to get better? Some of the names I'm going to throw out could be interesting. And also there's a name that may just be for the now to help bridge and bring along another player. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Shout out to my everydayers from the Himalayas, making the Locked On Texans podcast your first listen of the day, and for being a part of the number one sports network in the country. Now, it's important, like I said, to talk about Houston and improving their offense, right? Only two teams had less YAC yards per reception than Houston in 2025, right? And it's important for the Houston Texans to maybe go out there and add a veteran wide receiver to their wide receiver group. I saw this due to a Jason Braddock tweet, and he mentioned on Twitter that maybe Deebo Samuel, who was top 10 among wide receivers in yards after the catch per reception in 2025, would make sense on a reasonable one-year deal. He also highlighted Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne played for the Patriots at one point. He also played for the Niners. So he has a background in both the McVay, West Coast Patriot offense. Could be a cheaper, lesser option if Deebo Samuel's cost too much. I thought those are two interesting names, but I also just love the conversation all together. For Houston, getting to the next level offensively looks like what? Obviously, it's some basic things that the Houston Texans need to address and get better at O-line, right back, tight end too, maybe, looking at adding an extra wide receiver altogether. But the element of missing guys who can get the ball and get upfield consistently per catch, I thought was extremely it was relevant last year, in my opinion. And names aside, which I'll get to, again, the Houston Texans do have a YAC issue. That was something that I pointed out during the year. But if I look at names in front of us now, Wan'Dale Robinson, a free agent for the Giants, had nearly 400 YAC yards in 2025. Here's another thing. This would be a twofold. He'd check two boxes for Houston, right? Number one, he's a proven slot. That was the issue for Houston. And I think maybe that issue, if you look at adding a Robinson, the issue with that would be maybe pushing the value of Jalen Noel down, especially if Houston views him as an interchangeable piece. I'm talking about Jalen Noel here, as an interchangeable piece to Tank Dell when he returns. But Robinson would give Houston proven experience right now, 400 snaps from the slot in 2025. I think that's worth noting. But it is some interesting names out there, either as potential cut candidates or free agents. Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Romeo Doubs. I'll say this: some of these names might not have anything to do with how Houston views the 2025 rookies. Some of these names might be how the Houston Texans prepare for if either of those injury concerns continue to pile up for Nico Collins and Tank Dell. Now, for Michael Pittman, I wouldn't consider him at all. I wouldn't consider Pittman. I wouldn't consider Alec Pierce. Pierce had a great year last year. You look at what he was able to do. Yards per catch was astounding. I believe he led the league, if not number one, number two in that category. But here's the thing about a guy that I really like, and I've liked this receiver for a while, and I think he add to, if you get him back in the space where he'll not be limited to a role, he add to the wide receiver room, but he also bring along real experience in an unlimited role to what the Houston Texans need to improve on, and that's DJ Moore. Here's the thing about DJ Moore. Prior to last year, where I think, again, Caleb Williams and that offense had him in a more downfield role, and the numbers support that. 9.2 yards before catch. His average depth of target was 11.5. All right, so now you're looking at just 10-yard catch here, 10-yard catch here. Not necessarily anything underneath or in the middle that he can operate and work with, but he also had fewer YAC yards. But prior to 2025, he had over 1,100 YAC yards total and nearly 6 YAC yards per catch. Nico Collins is still strong, and he's still a dominant receiver, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But he suffered 2 concussions this past year, 7 games missed in the last 2 seasons. Moore has not missed a game in like 4 to 5 years, right? Moore would be somewhat of a bridge or transition between Nico Collins being the guy right now. Houston still, in my opinion, needing to add a player in their receiver room, a vet that, in 2024, that worked out with a Stephon Diggs. But also, he'd be that bridge. Houston needed another true rep right now, and also the bridge between Higgins being the future number 1 receiver for the Houston Texans. And say what you want about Houston, like they have issues drafting tight ends. They have issues maybe addressing the running back position through the draft, but they know how to find a receiver, and I think Higgins is going to be another one of those guys. And so I like a Moore here to Houston. I really do. And he's been proven in his career to be able to get the ball and turn upfield, make a guy or two miss, and get additional yards. Again, I think for 2025, the limitations for Moore and the lack of YAC yards was due to Caleb Williams just airing it out downfield and hoping that Moore can go out there and make a play. Sometimes he did, sometimes he didn't. And I think the relationship between DJ Moore and Caleb Williams, I'm not sure what that relationship is in terms of on the field. We haven't heard too much about it. It's not an A.J. Brown and then Jalen Hurts situation where it's public. Moore doesn't respond or uses social media as a way to express his feelings. At least I haven't seen it. But I think Moore would like to be in a better situation to where he can get his numbers. And a part of getting his numbers, Texas fans out there, is his ability since entering the league to get YAC yards. And that could be a perfect situation to where for Houston, hey, you know what? If you get cut, we got a 1-2 year deal here for you in Houston, and we believe you fit what we're asking of you. Now, that may be a little bit more expensive if Houston wants to be on the cheaper side. Maybe a Kendrick Bourne could be that guy. Again, his last 2 stops, New England and the San Francisco 49ers. And hey, Texas fans, do y'all think Tyreek Hill to Houston makes sense, or is there just too much baggage? Yeah, I'm just going to put that out right now. Or maybe DeMeco Ryans wouldn't view him as a guy he'd want on his team, seeing as though Ryans and McDaniels work together in San Fran, maybe viewing some of the antics and some of the things that Tyreek Hill did or said while in Miami those last 2 seasons as someone he wouldn't necessarily want to deal with. Now, for CJ Stroud, what does not having to be Superman look like? More on the Locked On Texans podcast. And before we get into that conversation, FanDuel is really looking out for y'all. They've looked out for our customers, our podcast listeners all year, and they continue to do so, because if you've ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live in person, FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two, flights, tickets, the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. And now, not only can your pick cash in, but it can also send you to the finals. I mean, you can't beat that, right? Get into for a chance. Also can get you some money. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Continuing with today's conversation, CJ Stroud, man, he said something to end off the year, and I know I briefly talked about it, but I wanted to bring it back as the Houston Texans are getting ready for the next month. We're going to see legal tampering periods. You're going to see teams legally being able to talk with players. You're going to see free agency. Then the Houston Texans and the rest of the league will be gearing up for the NFL draft. But CJ Stroud detailed how he had to transition from being on an offense-driven team to more complementary ones. And he said, this year was a step for me where I didn't have to be Superman all the time. I'm still growing in that, and I love that he pointed that out for himself. I've seen growth in my footwork, in the pocket, staying in the pocket, just not running around. He also continued with that's been a challenge for him this year, right? And I think for Stroud, mentally processing everything can speed things up, and speeding the game up when you're not ready to flow with the speed of the game could put a young player in a position to where they have to make the play. But we got to look at some of the things that hurt Stroud and led to maybe him feeling like he has to overcome the situation or having to be Superman. Number one, the run game. I mean, I'm going to always bring it back to the run game for Stroud, regardless of how we feel about how Stroud ended the year, how he ended the year, and how this year started. Kind of the same thing. Wasn't able to run the ball, right? And so with the run game and all it calls for, second level blocking, guys who can just perform well in the system, guys up front who can move another body out the way, being an actual threat. And I mentioned this because the percentage of running back runs that gain 0 yards or lost yardage, Houston sat at 20% in 2025. Only 6 teams were worse. With the struggling offense that is still trying to learn and execute the principles of what the scheme is asking, and with the most difficult part of that being the passing game, right? When we look at the struggles of the offense, the run game was one of it, if not number one. But guys, learning what that offense is asking of the passing game, I can see how Stroud would feel that way, like he has to be Superman because of the lack of consistent help from the run game. Houston also had a first place schedule, so they're going up against top teams, and you need, like for Stroud, he mentioned being a part of complementary offenses instead of a more offensive driven team, and being a part of a more complementary team. Excuse me. Let's get back to that complementary part for the offense, though. Wasn't a lot of complementary going on. One game, one element may work, the other one may not, right? That's the problem. Very oftentimes where both elements, running game, passing game, complemented each other to complement the defense. That's just a fact. So, like, for me, number one, getting a run game would definitely help Stroud not think he has to be Superman. And I mean, like, third and long was a problem throughout the season, going back to the run game and just the issues of the offense altogether. It got better at one point, but early in the season, they were dead last through the first 3 games. 0-3, right? Also, out of 467 first down runs on the year, whether first and 10 or greater or less, right? So first and 10, first and 15, first and 5. The Houston Texans averaged 2.1 yards per carry. Now, granted, on 1st and 10 in itself, Houston averaged 3.9, still not great. Houston's run game was abysmal in the red zone, being 0.9, 0.9 inside the 10, 1.9 altogether. So you're looking at the place where you're supposed to score, and the run game not being a compliment for a quarterback, especially a young quarterback that, in all honesty, isn't used to this. Is not used to this. That's speeding the game up. How is that speeding the game up? It's speeding the game up because as a quarterback, you know your job, your value, what you bring to the table, and ultimately your money is based on how the offense is viewed. And how the offense is viewed can be skewed by if you're scoring points or not, right? Unless you're a real run-driven team, like maybe a Philly, like maybe a Minnesota during the Adrian Peterson years, right? If you got that type of running back, maybe the Giants a couple of years ago with Saquon, last year with Saquon. If you have one of those running backs, then it's viewed differently. But Houston doesn't have one of those running backs. They didn't have it in 2025, and the expectation going into the year was Stroud would raise his level of play. That didn't happen, but you look at some of the things around him, and you say to yourself, this is why he felt like he had to be Superman. I'm okay with being critical of Stroud for the last 2 games, how the playoffs ended, and various points throughout the year, but we cannot say that his supporting cast was top tier. When you get in the red zone, 0.9 inside the 10, you ain't getting a yard. On average, you're not getting a yard. You're not getting 2 yards per pop inside the 20 in the red zone. That's a problem. He's still a young quarterback who is still trying to get his money played to a level of play where he can earn that contract extension with big money. But you look at some of these things, and you look at the abysmal red zone offense, and you're looking at Kaimi Fairbairn being the most valued player in the red zone, and now the Texans are not scoring touchdowns, and that's leading to what? Hey, man, I ain't got my 30 touchdowns. How that's going to look when it comes to contracts negotiation? How is that going to look around contract negotiation? I got to go get a play here. I got to go get a play there. I got to make these plays. And a lot of times for Stroud speeding that game up in that aspect, it hurt the Houston Texans offense. I think it hurt him, and it really showed its ugly head in the playoffs. So, yeah, it'll lead to Stroud feeling like that. No doubt about it. And here's another thing, some caveats that we have to add. Kirk didn't fit in like Stephon Diggs did as a new face vet receiver. Noel didn't hit like Tank Dell. And neither of the backs were Joe Mixon. Neither. And I think a lack of trust hurts Stroud more than we talk about. Dalton Schultz mentioned it. I've been in this offense. CJ Stroud trusts me. The trust level that he has with myself and Nico Collins. Like, those two were counted upon more, being the vets of this team, right? Nico Collins now being the number 1 lead big dog. Dalton Schultz being that savvy tight end vet who improved in so many different ways. Those two were counted upon more than, that time with the Texans, simply because the quarterback just knew where they were going to be, knew the spots, trusted them to make a play. Don't feel like that was the case with Jalen Noah consistently through 17 games. Don't feel like that was the case with Jaden Higgins. But more importantly, that was not the case with Christian Kirk, unlike it was with Stephon Diggs. Like, and here's the thing. Diggs will stay after practice and get this kind of thing right, get the offense together. Like, he's a stay after practice and let's get this right kind of guy. He done wonders with Drake May, did wonders with Josh Allen, did wonders with Case Keenum and Kirk Cousins at one point. In many ways, regardless of off the field, on the field, he is the ultimate get your quarterback to a next level kind of receiver. Kirk was not that for Houston. And it feels like Kirk was still trying to figure things out himself and still working himself back to a healthy place. And here's the thing. I don't think Houston asked Stroud to be Superman. Raise his level of play? Yeah, absolutely. Sure, this is the NFL. But not be Superman. I don't think that was the ask of Stroud from the Texans last year, especially with Kaylee coming in. One thing that Kaylee pointed out early in the offseason, this is going to be a Houston offense. It's going to change week to week. I got to do what's best for my guys. And I think earlier it was viewed that I can't ask my quarterback, my young quarterback, to do some of these things when honestly, I don't have the playmakers or offensive linemen to do what I want to do. So let's get through this first year together. Let's trust D'Amico and the defense to win us ball games. Let's just do enough, which goes back to his statement of a complementary team. I can't think of a game where it felt like Houston wanted him to save the day. In fact, in the playoffs, where quarterbacks typically save the day, it was the defense being asked to do that when D'Amico Ryans opted to punt the ball down a score in the fourth quarter. I do think that mindset, the not having to be Superman, realizing that he can be Clark Kent. I do think that mindset, in many ways, could lead to a better CJ Stroud, though. Houston will do what they need to, hopefully, knock on wood, to build a better situation around him. But here's why I think this. Stroud believing he does not have to be Superman might just slow the game down for him. And if the game is slowed down for CJ Stroud, what are you looking at? You're looking at some of the improvements made the back half of the year when he returned back from that concussion. Better footwork. The playoffs, that happened. The Steelers' footwork and everything was bad. Against the Patriots, it was bad. Decision-making was bad. But you're looking at better footwork in the pocket, when to operate and move up in the pocket, when to stay in the pocket, when to run around. You're looking at those things slowing down to a place where he has a little bit more handle and control of what the offense is asking of him. He has a little bit more handle and control about pre-post snaps, decisions. And that could lead to that precision passer that we once knew and loved as the CJ Stroud, right? So I think that was very important to talk about on this weekend show. Moving forward into the streets, what have y'all been talking about? Let's dive into the YouTube comments to close out today's show. Welcome to the 5-hour energy flavor draft with 18 different flavors to choose from, including new options like confetti craze, fruity rainbow, cotton candy. There's something for everyone. The board is set. The flavors are ready. And I've got my number one pick for the 5-hour energy flavor draft. Personally, I'm going with, and this is due to the missus in the house, I'm going with confetti craze, number one pick. Running my pick in. I just think when we looked at some of the flavors and some of the things that we like to, enjoy, especially before our workouts, confetti craze for me was a top option. Top option. But there are also other flavors, Texas fans out there, to choose from. It could still be your top contender. Here's the best part about it. No matter what flavor you roll with, 5-hour energy shots give you a boost with zero sugar. 5-hour energy has a lot of upcoming flavor innovation plans. So your favorite, like we look at the 2026 draft class and you say it may not be a strong draft class, but 2027 is even better. 5-hour energy could have your 2027 draft class-esque flavor coming soon. And also, there's limited time flavors that 5-hour energy offers as well. So find your new flavor, your favorite flavor of 5-hour energy shots available at 5hourenergy.com and Amazon as well. Closing out today's conversation into the streets. It's been a rough week, ladies and gents. But you guys make covering the Texans fun, right? If I'm just being honest, you guys really make covering the Houston Texans fun simply because Texan fans will call you out when you're wrong. Texan fans will give you love when you right, but I think ultimately Texan fans right now split down the middle. Roll with Stroud, don't roll with Stroud. I see a lot of that in the comments. I see a lot of different ways to um to bounce back and be better, right? But I want you guys to talk together, and you can do so together in a Locked On Texans group chat. Thank you for tuning into today's Locked On Texans podcast, right? Monday, we'll get right back to talking Texans some more. And then also I have the draft coverage, the 10-minute additional Locked On Texans draft coverage dropping later today. Make sure you subscribe and follow the podcast so you get all of the latest episodes. If you've never missed an episode, then you are my everydayer from the Himalaya. And the Everyday Club is built for you. Get Locked On Texans ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedontexans.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure that you make the Locked On YouTube channel your second listen, and also make sure you make your second or third listen Locked On NFL Draft. Now, here's a comment that I like. Abigail Arte. Actually, Abigail is a real everydayer. Abigail has been around for a while. Shout out to Abigail. She says, and this is on the Squad Show, is there smoke to all of this CJ Stroud trade, right? She said Hickman's argument is evidence for Stroud's camp for a trade. Also, John, defenses have evolved from the time Deshaun was playing. I just and to that comment, that was probably due to when I said I don't think it'd be smart for CJ Stroud and his camp to look for a trade to create smoke, right? I don't think it'd be smart. I don't think it'd be smart simply because for Stroud, you want to get that first extension before you look to explore any trade. And I think in a lot of ways the Houston Texans hold leverage. It may not be 50-50, it could be 55-45, right? It could be 60-40, no matter the split percentage-wise, and obviously I'm just throwing out names, but it could be 51-49. The bigger side of that split will go to the Houston Texans. 7 turnovers in the playoffs with that defense, with the opportunity to play a Bo Nick-less Broncos the very next week to punch your Super Bowl ticket. And it wasn't just the interceptions, the turnovers. It was the overthrows. It was the underthrows. It was just the poor decision-making. That's a problem. And if I'm his agent, I'm saying, hey, man, listen, I know you may want to leave if that's the case, and we're just speculating. CJ Stroud may want to be here in Houston, although he is in California right now, which is where he's working out, getting away, working out. And I think he's also doing maybe some missionary work due to a social media post. And shout out to CJ Stroud and Will Anderson in that field. Also, all of the things the Houston Texan players do in the community. But if I'm his agent, I'm saying to him, let's get you in a better view. Because some of these, like I think it was Kevin O'Connell. Well, McShake said there are coaches around the league that view Stroud as a player that hadn't been done right, and some coaches around the league could get the best out of him. Houston ain't gonna deal unless the price is right, number one, and also they're not going to deal him and move on from him unless he provides something better. And something better for Houston may not be a return on a trade. It could just be a much better CJ Stroud, which is where I think he's focused himself, being in a better place, being in a better space, and just being a better overall quarterback. Let's see here. This is another one I like, and I'm going to encourage Stan. Hitch 6414. John and Stan need their own show. I can hear the debate for hours, and John needs to be in the do-rag. I need to be in the do-rag. I enjoy Stan so much on the squad shows, and I enjoy MC on the squad show as well because MC does a great job of driving the show, getting us where we need to be, right? Former host, radio host here in Houston. But the thing that makes it so so great. And the dynamic between Stan and I is um, all of our conversations are based in fun, logic, and what we do and opinion. And Stan has a strong background in NFL personnel and amongst other things. But we both feel like we're right in some ways. We both hold the Houston Texans accountable for some of the god awful things that they've done this past year. Also, with the Texans draft breakdown, can Houston get it popping with Emmanuel Pregnon? Pregnon at 28. If loan is still available in the late teens, maybe move up and try to get him. Another one, Bentley Fathery at 16-16. Go ahead and take Pregnon at 28 so we don't miss out. Yes, please, Pregnon to H-Town. If you have not watched my draft coverage series, which was my additional Locked On Texans coverage, do so. Emmanuel Pregnon. Here's the thing about Houston Pregnon in 28. I think you can trade back and still get Pregnon. And I pointed that out. How Houston traded back and got Jade Higgins last year. I think for Houston, you can trade back, get Pregnon, and maybe still get an elite D tackle. You're looking at 3 potential second-round picks, maybe a 2 seconds and another third. Now you're looking at 2 2s, 2 3s, and 2 4s. For Houston, who it may not go all in on one player in free agency. They may create a bulk of that cap space to re-sign guys and get a player or 2 difference makers. They could really benefit from trading back or looking at the fact that they got 2 2s, they got 2 4s. Maybe there's an offensive lineman that they absolutely love that they can trade up for. But I like Pregnon at 28 because I think his value of what he's able to do. First of all, he gotten better year in and year out from 24 to 25. I pointed that out. But he's also a guy that in his year that he's gotten better, he got better with his anchor. He got better with making sure that when there is contact to be made, he's making that contact and he's following through with it. He's gotten better with duo and double teams. He's gotten better with just dominating, getting to the second level. And he is a left guard. And you can leave Titus Howard at right tackle. Thank y'all for watching and listening to today's episode. Please be sure to subscribe on YouTube wherever you listen to your podcast and follow me on Twitter at John_Hickman12. Until next time, ladies and gents, Texas fans across the nation, peace.